I have 2 blocks for today. And we're going to do some shoulder stuff, Leanne. So you'll have to tell me how it goes when we're done. But I have 2 blocks handy. And we'll actually start laying on our bellies today. Just kind of center our breathing, laying down on our bellies. So come on down onto your belly and make a pillow for your forehead with your hands. So let your elbows go wide. And you can let your feet, take up some space on your mat. They can go as wide as your mat. Let yourself kind of get all your wiggles out so that you can settle in. Lying on your belly with your forehead on your stacked hands. And really bring your awareness to your breath. Thinking about kind of lengthening your tailbone toward the foot of your mat. Breathing into your low back ribs. Breathing out into your side ribs. Just kind of getting yourself ready for this new day. And see if you can breathe in and out of your nose with a smooth inhale and then a pause and then a long, smooth exhale. And just take one more long, full breath just to arrive here. Let yourself feel your body. And then lift your head. We'll roll to one side. Turn on my clock. I don't lose track of time. So I'm starting on my right side. You can take your block and just put it in your armpit. And it'll kind of need to be at an angle. If you don't have a block, you could roll up a towel. So it's skinny enough just to fit in this space under your armpit. And I have my knees stacked. Just relax your head on your fist and just rock forward and back here with the block kind of in your armpit. So you'll feel probably some tenderness in those muscles around your shoulder, all that rotator cuff stuff. And see if you can roll to a place that feels interesting. Like it might be a little bit tender, but not excruciating. And let there be some pressure there from your block. And then just breathe. A long inhale and a long, slow exhale. And you can decide to exhale through your mouth or your nose, whichever feels kind of most relaxing to you. And take one more breath in that spot and then just kind of rock back and forth again and maybe find one more little spot to stay and breathe. And you can roll all the way forward and get more like into your pec. Just wherever feels kind of interesting. Just pause there. And if it feels okay for your neck, lift your head up off your hand, and now we'll just keep a 90-degree bend at this elbow and internally and externally rotate from your shoulder. And so you're leaning into that block with your armpit and just using this pivoting of your shoulder. So your humerus bone here is moving. Kind of get into that massage. And bring your head back to your hand, and then just take your top knee, lift it slightly up off of your bottom knee, and then extend back. So find some extension through the front of your hip, engage through your glute, and then externally rotate that knee up. So we're just doing hip cars here. Bring your knee up toward your armpit, into your chest, and then back to where you started. And then switch directions, bring your knee in, and then up. Extend it back and back to where you started. Just do one more in each direction. Try to keep your hips stacked on each other, so I'm using my left hand on my hip. Just making as big of a circle with that hip as you can, and then roll off of the block in your armpit and just come onto your hands and knees. Any kind of movements of your shoulders that would feel good here. So you can do some scapular push-ups, bringing your shoulder blades toward each other and then pushing them apart, or some circles. But just notice the difference between your left and your right, the difference between the side that had that awakening from your block. And then we'll go ahead and just do the other side. So come onto your other side. Angle your block in a way that you can just kind of bring your armpit over it. You can rest your head there. And it's not an exact science, just find a place for it. And then roll back and forth here. Do it a few times, letting your breath be calm and easy, your face be soft. And then find a place that's interesting, maybe just a little bit tender, but not excruciating. And pause there with a really long exhales when you breathe. And your exhales can come out of your nose or your mouth, whichever feels like the most release for you. Right, and try to relax those muscles against your block. It only needs, like 10 to 30 seconds for those trigger points just to kind of get the feedback to release. And then rock around, maybe find one more interesting place. And you can notice and be interested in how different this shoulder is than the other. They're probably different. Find another place and just pause. And then if it's okay for your neck, just take your hand away from your head. Keep that 90-degree bend, but then we'll internally and externally rotate that shoulder. So your head is just kind of in line with your spine. You're pivoting, moving this humerus bone. Use your elbow as an anchor. And then you can bring your head back onto your hand, find those hip cars the other way. So reach back, reach that heel back so you're really opening through the front of your hip, really engage through your glute. Then externally rotate and bring your knee up in towards your armpit, around and back to where you started, and then switch directions, knee in, externally rotate, and then reach back. Just one more time in each direction. Trying to keep your hips stacked on top of each other as you move there. And then roll back onto your hands and knees. And again, just find those scapular push-ups, pushing the floor away, spreading your shoulder blades, and then drawing your shoulder blades together. Just back and forth. And then find a neutral spine and reach your right arm straight forward alongside your ears as much as you can. Just bend your elbow to tap maybe the base of your neck, top of your back. Reach back and then swim that arm out to the side. You'll internally rotate your shoulder, bend your elbow, and bring the back of your hand to float above your lower back. And we'll just swim between those two. When you get your arm forward, just bend your elbow any amount. And it doesn't have to come, your bicep doesn't have to come alongside your ear. You're just using that muscular strength to explore your range of motion, and then we'll switch sides. So reach your other arm forward and settle those front low ribs in. And bend your elbow, just tap the base of your neck, and then reach out. Swim around, internally rotating that shoulder. Float your hand above your back. And reach forward and bend. And move slowly with control, just really paying attention to every part of the movement that's happening in your shoulder. Let's do one more. And then bring your hands down. And keep your hips where they are and just walk your hands, your arms forward. And drop your heart toward the floor. Maybe forehead will come to the floor, maybe not. Just stretch through your outer line of your armpits, keeping your hips high and right above your knees. Walk your hands back in. And then tuck your toes. Lift your hips up and back for a downward facing dog. You can pedal out your feet. And then shorten your dog a little bit shorter than normal and let your feet be as wide as your mat. Push into your hands and lengthen through your outer armpits and let your neck be free. So shake your head no. Nod your head yes. Ground down into your left hand and find that external rotation of your upper arm bones. So think about rotating your elbow crease toward the ceiling a little bit. And then float your right hand up and just reach your right hand for your outer left knee or ankle and just find a twist there. Release your hand back and then plant your right hand, float your left hand up and just reach back with your left hand outside your right knee, calf, ankle. We're just going to walk back and forth. So loading that one shoulder, reaching back with the other, finding a twist through your thoracic spine. And just going back and forth, connecting with your breath. Loading that shoulder with just a little bit of a twist. If it's too big of a load, you can do this with your hands and knees down. And then we'll just take a walk up to the top of your mat. And find kind of a wide foot chair. So your feet may be almost as wide as your mat. Sit down in a chair and just rest your hands on your thighs. Really push your inner groin back, but then soften your low ribs in. Face you here. Take your right arm into a cactus. Rest your left forearm on your left thigh and then open out and then swim that arm long forward and then pull it back, kind of like you're pulling the string of a bow. Pull your elbow back and then switch. Just bring that right forearm. Open your left arm into cactus and then swim it forward. Pull that elbow back and do that a couple of times. And then bring your forearm to your thigh and find your twist open. So find some leverage of this forearm on your thigh as you open and then lengthen and then bend, forearm to thigh. Last time. Reach back. And then reach both arms forward. And then come all the way up to standing. Take a big breath in. Exhale, fold forward. You can bring your feet closer to hip distance apart now. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Take a step back with your left foot and set up for warrior one. So ground your left heel. Float your hands back by your hips. Push into that right heel to come on up and reach your arms high. So your left heel is grounded. Shoulders out of your ears. And you don't need to worry about them being straight up. Right? Pay more attention to the integrity of your spine. So your shoulders in relation to your rib cage. So you're really moving your shoulders independently of your rib cage. So don't worry about pushing your hands back if it's going to flare your front ribs forward and open. Now open your arms into a cactus here. Draw your shoulder blades together and soften those front low ribs down. Straighten your front leg. Then you can tuck your chin and give yourself a hug. And we'll just cycle through those two places. Inhale, bend your knee, open to cactus. And then exhale, straighten your knee, maybe the other elbow underneath. Let's just do one more on each side. Open your arms into a cactus. Lean partway forward. We'll move into a warrior three, but open through your chest. Engage through that back body. Float your back leg up. You can stay bent in your right knee, or maybe bring it towards straight. And then release your fingers toward the floor. Find a little bit of a standing split. And then both feet to the floor. Knees hip distance. Just come up into your chair. Arms lift as much as they can while you keep those low ribs down. And then come up to standing. Release your arms. Inhale and reach high. Exhale, fold forward. Take a big step back with your right foot. Ground that right heel. Set up for your warrior one on this side. Float your hands back. Push into your left heel and come on up. Reach high. And again, your shoulders are moving independent of your rib cage. So think of those front low ribs staying down. Only reach your arms back as far as you can keep the integrity of your thoracic spine. So shoulders moving independent of your rib cage. And then bring your arms into your cactus. And then tuck your chin. Straighten that left leg. Give yourself a hug. And just move through this with your breath. So we're moving slowly, but we're using these muscles to find more range of motion, and build a little bit of warmth through our shoulders. Bend through your knee, find your cactus. Lean halfway forward, float your back toes, draw your shoulder blades together. Oh, really think about pushing the backs of your hands toward the ceiling. And then fingertips to the floor. Find that standing split. And then both feet to the floor. Inhale, just find a halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Bend your knees, plant your hands, and step back into a plank. Pause there, and then lift your hips up and back for downward facing dog. Spread through your hands. Rock forward into a plank, and then bend your knees to float above the floor. Push your hips back and up. Rock forward into plank. Bend your knees to hover. Push your hips back and up. Find some external rotation of your upper arms, both of them. And then keep that. Rock forward into your plank. Bend your knees and up and back. One more of those. And really think of this kind of churning, building heat and range in your shoulders. And then bring your knees to the floor. Find your blocks. And you can do this at any height of your blocks. We'll bring our elbows to our blocks. Make sure your elbows are kind of in the middle. Bring your hands together in prayer. Bend your elbows and bring your hands behind your head. So we're in like this puppy pose again. Your hips are lifted. You can let your head kind of drop between the blocks. And don't worry too much about your rib cage here. You can let this be kind of passive. Let your spine just be kind of like a hammock. Let your neck relax. You lengthen through your outer armpits. And then release the bend in your elbows. And come on to your hands and knees. Just push your blocks forward. And we'll come down onto our bellies. So I'm just going to have one block in front of me so you can see what we're doing. So put your block far enough that you can bring a fist on top of your block. The lighting's kind of crazy here, but hopefully you can see that I've just got my hand fisted and it's resting on my block. I'm going to rest my forehead on my other hand on the floor. And you may have to experiment with the height of your block. So you could start with it on the lowest height. Let your front ribs settle into the floor and kind of push down into your pubic bone. And then from here, just lift your fist up off the block, move it toward the inner edge, and then place it up onto the floor. Relax your forehead onto your hand. Now lift that straight arm again and place your fist back on your block. And then from here, lift that fist, and now you'll move it to the outer edge and place it to the floor. And just keep moving there. You can do maybe one more on this height. If it feels doable, you could maybe change to the middle height of your block. And so you'll start with that fist on your block. Lift that straight arm and then bring it inside. Keeping your forehead relaxed down, the back of your neck long, and move in and out of that block. So wherever you are, just lift and then set your fist on your block, end with your fist to the outside, and just switch sides. So you can move your block over to where the other hand is. Maybe start on the lowest height. Place that fist on your block, forehead onto your other hand on the floor, and then lift that straight arm and then set it on the floor inside of your block. And then lift that straight arm, set it on top of your block. Lift your straight arm and set it to the outside of your block. Keep pushing down through your pubic bone so you're lengthening through the back of your neck. And let these movements be pretty slow and controlled. After you've done the lowest height, if it feels like a good idea, you can move to the middle height of your block. Just lifting that fist, resting on top, and then lifting it again, bringing it to the outside, and bringing it to the inside. And then be done. And push your block out of the way. You can rest both hands on the floor, forehead to your hands again. And then take your right arm out into a cactus shape on the floor, just laying on your belly. So your elbows bent at a 90-degree angle. Put your right cheek on the floor, bring your left hand alongside your chest, and then just rock onto your right hip any amount, dropping that right shoulder toward the floor. If that's just way too much, you can do it with a straight right arm. And then switch sides. Left arm either in cactus or straight. And then rock onto your left hip. Maybe even those right toes come to the floor behind you. And then we'll try one more variation of that. So I'm going to turn this way. So you can just do that exact same thing again, or you can bring your straight right arm out, bring your right cheek to the floor, roll to your right hip, and then maybe bend through your left knee and reach back with your left hand for your left ankle. So you're kind of in a half bow pose. Really push your foot into your hand, hand into your foot. Don't do this if it's too much for your right shoulder. And then switch. And stretch the other side one more time. So either that cactus arm and just roll, or arm straight. Come to your side and play with bending your knee and finding your ankle. Kicking your foot into your hand, hand into your foot. And then release. And we'll just end right where we started. Pillow for your forehead with your hands. If you would rather end sitting or laying on your back, feel free. And just come back to your breath. If you're laying on your belly, bend both knees and just windshield wiper those knees from side to side. Kind of rock a little bit on your belly. And release. Long breath in through your nose. Pause. Long exhale out. And if you're not seated yet, just make your way up to a comfortable seat. And find some neck circles there, just really intuitive. Whatever it feels like your body needs. And end with a smile, your hands at your heart. And divine light in me honors the divine light in you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.